Hey guys, my name is Theo. Welcome back to the Creatorverse. This is going to be my first review, or rather, my first time back into doing reviews. This is my review of Spider-Noir. Please subscribe to this channel and hit the thumbs up button on this video. It would help boost our numbers greatly. Pardon me if the lighting is a bit rough. It is a bit late at the time of recording this. I posted a recent a recent article on Substack. So, my review for Spider-Noir was very simple. It was very direct. In the age of fallen heroes, broken soldiers, and insane despots, we are graced with the story that follows one man named Ben Reilly. Now, his overall character arc kind of sways, moves back and forth with the wind, which is fitting considering the noir setting. Now, those of you who love black and white films, you may or may not enjoy this. I loved it, and it's actually very rare. I do not watch many black and white films. I haven't watched many in years because of, well, after the passing of my grandpa, it's just not something I've had an interest in. Humphrey Bogart films like that, and Casablanca and all that type of stuff. I've watched them here and there. I've watched, Christmas films and, like It's a Wonderful Life. Sound of Music, I watched a black and white version at some point. Anyway, it's one of those things where recently, for some reason, black and white usually gives me a headache. But this series felt more like a serial, almost like reading a black and white comic book on a strip. So imagine reading a magazine strip, a comic strip on a newspaper. That's basically what it felt like. So when I was watching this series, it all kind of it would all unfold little by little, revealing hidden secrets, dark twists, things like that. And I was kind of surprised. Honestly, it was one of those things where I didn't expect the hero to be, too heroic. But in my mind, when I watched it, all I could see was a character who was basically he struggled with that inner turmoil that we all face when we're trying to, embrace the responsibility of helping others. And, the self-doubt and the kind of disbelief. He wanted to believe or make himself, as well as convince others, that he wasn't a hero, to say the least. But he really wanted to get away from this life after the loss of, well, spoiler alert, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that right now. Spoiler. After the loss of his loved one, his fiancée, he basically lost it. He fell off the map. He wanted to get away from that world of vigilantism and kind of he just kind of got into a slump. He sank in deeper into a drunken stupor and just, well, seeing this kind of broken down Spider-Man, you would think that it's more the same, the way they try to do, the recent superhero films and shows. Nihilistic, you would think it's going that direction, but in the end, he actually embraces the role of a hero. He does what's right, and he does it almost joyfully. He does it in a way that you would not expect, but of course, he's still struggling with that broken feeling, the brokenness of loss and now he has this person who betrays him, someone who tears him down. Cat, his version of essentially Black Cat, which I should have seen coming. But the issue is I didn't even notice at first. This is where the problems lie, or this is where I find issue with the current series. It's the current state of things in the comic books and all that. If you're a fan of Spider-Man, you know about Black Cat, Felicia Hardy, you know about this story arc between the two. Now, they captured it very well in this series, but the problem with that is they didn't actually have a character that looked like Felicia Hardy. She was obviously a race-swapped version, unless she is that way in the comics. I'm going to tell you right now, I haven't read the noir comic book, so I'm not coming to you from an angle of comic book fan. I am a comic book fan, but I don't read every single comic book that's out there. I read what I find interesting. Now, will I dive deeper and see if there's Asian version or whatever of Felicia Hardy. If there's a noir comic book series of Spider-Man, I'll look into it. But that being said, I wanted to share my own thoughts on this series. And while I wasn't a big fan of the character, like most people growing up reading these comic books or reading or knowing about this character, I'm not as big of a fan as others. Pardon me. Sorry about that. Anyway, if you're a fan of classic films, however, like I am, or I've become more accustomed to now, if you're a fan of those things, a fan of classic films, black and white, you're probably gonna love it. Maybe not. It depends. I really can't speak for everybody. I enjoyed it, and I'll get through this review quickly. But basically, this breakdown is going to be breaking down the character arcs to some degree of each one. When it comes to certain characters, villains and heroes alike, I should say the villains of the story, they loosely reflect the characters in the comic books that you'd imagine. You have Hammerhead, you have Sandman, you have a version of Megawatt, you have quite a few other characters in here. So Silvermane is a character that is a classic mafia boss in this, what you'd imagine in a noir setting. Now, mind you, he is combating certain elements now of a return of an enemy, an old enemy. So seeing this return, it kind of took me back to Black Lightning on CW. Mind you, this was done so much better because the characters were likable and they weren't harping on things over and over again, going back and forth on the same plot points and trying to repeat it to fill up an episode. Each episode felt full and it felt continuous. It felt segmented, of course, but it continued seamlessly across episodes. You had Silver Sable trying to hunt down the Spider. He's also trying to hunt down a traitor in his midst, which is someone that you might expect. Cat. Cat is trying to who is Felicia Hardy. She is trying to essentially find a great escape. She's trying to get away from all this, the life of crime, trying to get away from this lifestyle. She's stuck here as his girl, Silver Sable's club girl. She's there, his number one girl in his club, and his cabaret or whatever they call it. And then you have her actual lover, Flint Marko, Sandman. His reveal was easily one of the best scenes ever because he fought against the Spider. The Spider is still fresh out of retirement, not really trying to come out again as the Spider. He is actually attempting to. He's trying to go back into hiding. He's trying to just get his job done, collect a paycheck, almost like a mercenary. But this is what a private eye does. A detective, someone who investigates these things for money. Of course, I'm breaking this down a little too loose here, and it may sound a little bit childish in my descriptions. Anyway, in trying to get away from all this and trying to get away from the character arc, I think they kind of created something. When they try to get away from certain character tropes, they embrace the one thing that I've been missing. Most villains are still villains. Now, there were some gray area characters, villains who needed redemption, villains who only were that by circumstance, but they managed to redeem themselves, or they were redeemed by the acts of a hero. The Spider, or Spider-Noir, he basically finds a way to heal all of these people who have special abilities, villains who have abilities that were given to them by a lab experiment. So again, if you're this far in, I already said spoiler alert, so sorry about that. So in trying to basically heal these people, all these characters who have special abilities get them from the same source, a German lab experiment. Now, I hope they go into more detail later on in another season, but overall, when they capture the story, when I'm trying to describe here, it's when they capture each element of the story, they break it down into little elements here and there. They keep it. They don't try to explain every detail to you. They keep it where you don't have to hold. They don't have to hold your hand. And a lot of comic books these days, even video games, are this way, where they kind of hold your hand, trying to get you to follow along the story. But this way, it just kind of does it naturally. The story unfolds organically, and each thing falls into place. And when you see the way the spider gets his powers, it's honestly perfect. It's one of the best scenes ever. It's actually one of the things that I enjoyed about this series, which was the idea the spider got his powers from like a man spider, a humanoid mutation who was half human, half spider, due to lab experiments. And because of this, it kind of dilutes the serum that was used on him, and it creates the spider. The character Nick Cage plays, Ben Reilly. Ben Reilly is a hero who protected or saved, he rescued these people, but sadly, the ones who managed to get out eventually end up dying because either the experiment runs its course and their humanity dies, and then they decay, or the other characters, or there's a team of scientists trying to reverse this experiment, in the process killing these lab rats because they're trying to reverse it. In reality, they're just trying to selfishly save their own loved ones, who was one of the characters. One of the characters ends up being saved. Sorry if I'm kind of running around in circles here. Anyway, overall, the entire story is kind of something that I've been wanting to see for a long time. So, of course, I'm kind of ranting here. Sorry about that. But overall, I think the story actually could have more to tell. I think that if you have an interest in black and white movies and shows, you might enjoy this. However, you can also watch it in color. I may watch it again in color to see kind of how it looks. I saw certain scenes in color on YouTube, and it just looks, even the color version has this quality to it that I think I've seen interviews of Nick Cage kind of describing how they filmed it a little bit differently, as though they filmed it in a way that it appears they recolored a black and white movie or any kind of black and white genre, movie or show. Anyway, this is what I have to say about this movie, this series. I think this series easily could have been a great movie franchise if they, with the right budget, right director, and everything. But I also think having a series like this makes me kind of hungry for a Spider-Man TV series, like regular Spider-Man. A more street-level character, over-the-top powers don't have to be a big thing all the time. I think it'd be a great thing to show him fighting more street-level type characters. Now, mind you, movies are still great, but I enjoy seeing this. I enjoyed watching this series, and I think it actually captured the character of Spider-Man in a noir setting perfectly. Anyway, that's all I'm going to talk about in this video. Be sure to like this video, please, and subscribe and share it with your friends. And please go watch Spider-Noir on Amazon so we can try to get another season out of this. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a good day. God bless.